episode of Machtails from the Cantina live. We are live. Happy Friday to everybody. It is Friday, isn't it? Hey, I got to give a shout out to two good friends. My brother, Alfie Jimenez, it's his birthday today. And my friend and Ray's brother, Brad Riverdahl, it's his birthday as well. Tonight is a very, very special show. We are going to be talking about a very, very old movie that I did 15 years ago called The Force Among Us. Yes, The Force Among Us. And I'm bringing on a good friend of mine, my Star Wars brother, my baseball brother, Patreon member, somebody that I've been friends with in a short time, but I've gotten to know very closely. And I wanted to bring somebody on that was able to dig deep and not do the same thing that I've done. I was on this crazy world promotion tour from 2007 until 2011. The Force Among Us, the first DVD pressing. This one here sold 1977 copies. I think the sand might have helped, the sand from Tunisia that we gave away for free with these copies. Yes, I know you guys are like, yeah, I got that sand. Or some of you are wondering, hey, how do I get that sand? And then we went on to release this on Amazon, a digital download. And then we also did a director's cut. But before I bring on my friend, my good friend, Tyler Page, you guys know Mocktails from the Cantina. Patreon members, this one's for you. I got the villain tin and I got the hero tin. Now in the villain tin, did you guys do the cheer and the boo? Cheer for the heroes, boo for the villains. This is the drinking word of the night. So anytime you hear this word, you're going to drink along with us. Drink responsibly, and only if you are 21 and over. We're going to talk about this one a lot tonight. This one is Norway. You guys are going to be lit by the time the show is over. And without further ado, I would like to, before I bring on Tyler, stick around. If you're a Patreon member, we are giving away something very, very special tonight. Your name is in this. We'll do the name draw at the end of the show. Remember, you must be tuning in live for this. But Tyler, why don't you bring yourself in? You're the man behind the controls. You're the production assistant. This isn't your first rodeo.
Hey, everybody. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, man, I am good. How are you doing tonight? And thank you in advance for taking this journey. Time to do this. I know you said you watched The Force Among Us this week 6 times. 6 times.
Yeah. I just finished my 7th, this afternoon because I was digging deep and I knew there's always something I can scrape off the bottom of the barrel, just to find out what's going on with you, with The Force Among Us, The Force Within Us. Because for me, when I watch a Chris Mock production, it's always a flow, right? There's always something, there's a part of you in each and everything. And because you're a great friend of mine, I want to just, digest that as much as I can. So
yeah, now here's the thing that I kind of recently found out as well. Now, this movie came out when you were 10 years old.
yeah, I was 11. So that was a fun part of this week when I was like, I'm sorry I wasn't at the premiere. I'm sorry I didn't, help out on the Kickstarter or buy anything, but I was 11 years old. So, yeah.
Now that dates my film. And, one of the things people go, well, why are you still talking about this? And one, it put me on the map. And, when I started Mocktails last year, it was kind of like to reconnect with people that worked on the projects, kind of celebrate what we've done because it was kind of challenging to work on anything new. And I posted something on my Facebook page today, and I was very, very happy to hear and see that it got a lot of likes. And I get emails to this day. People say, I've watched your movie's 15 years old. I've watched it 15 times. I watch it every year. And as much as I don't like my first film, and we'll get into that later on the show, it's really cool to hear people say that they still watch it. And I'm still getting a check from Amazon. It's not much. Amazon royalties are horrible. But people are still downloading this and watching it after all these years. So why not talk about it, right?
Yeah. Well, you got my $16 this week. I rented it on Amazon before, and then I had the DVDs from you. So, but I wanted the virtual, the easy thing. I could just hit a button and it pops on. So I did buy it again this week, probably for the second or third time. I'm not sure.
So you bought it for $7, and then they'll give me a check for 50 cents.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn you, Amazon!
All your hard work. There you go, 50 cents.
But it is cool. One of the accomplishments, and thank Amazon for this, is that independent filmmakers like myself can have this up on Amazon. There's just some kind of feeling and credibility that I get from that. And I know Jimmy Mack, our good friend Jimmy Mack, always says, dude, don't read the reviews. And I know what you guys can do. Go to Amazon, leave a review, even if it's a negative review. Leave a review on the film.
5 stars and plug his crap. If you're here on Machtails, leave a beautiful review, because this is required. This is, for me, The Force Among Us is required, as just like you should include it in your buffet of Star Wars material to consume, because it goes into this time capsule, right, of the right after Revenge of the Sith and what all of this fandom is. And it's changed so drastically over the last 15 years. So it's a great little piece to watch and to get introduced to a lot of different concepts of fandom, which I think is part of what you set out to do.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point. It is a time capsule, and I feel like for those of you that weren't around or don't really remember what it was like after Revenge of the Sith, and maybe I think The Force Among Us might show fandom in a more innocent, positive light. Because again, this is before social media, and I feel like social media is very, very negative, and it has killed fandom. I know a lot of people say that the sequels kind of did not help, but The Force Among Us was made to celebrate, to celebrate fandom. Maybe in the beginning, that necessarily was not my intention 101%, but in the end of the day, I do like the fact, I don't know, when I talk about the film, I don't hate it as much, but when I sit there and watch it, I'm like, there's a lot of things. That was my first film. There's a lot of things that I would have done differently,
Yeah. And I mean, the movie starts off and you got all the different fans, I would say, and some of the star guests reading off the disclaimer, or I would say it's more of the goal of the movie, right? I don't know if you would agree, where they're just reading off, hey, we are here to destroy stereotypes of Star Wars fans. And I don't know, do you think you did that with this movie?
I don't, because the film turned out to be a Hallmark card of Star Wars fans. It did not turn out to be, and I guess you could say that alone destroyed the stereotypes. But I didn't get into the depths of people's lives. I didn't spend that much time with them. And Frank Yario, who's going to be joining us on the show in October, when I get a crew reunion, Frank was the one that said, by celebrating the fans this way and by showing the love that they have for it, this should be enough to break the stereotypes. And we've been criticized. I've been criticized. I will take full responsibility as the director of this. That we did not break the stereotype of it. But as a fan, one thing that I've heard was that as a fan making this film, I thought it was good to hear that people saw the passion that I had for Star Wars just by showcasing fans in a positive light. Because I don't know if you've seen Trekkies, but Trekkies was one of those things that really hurt the fans. And then when they made Trekkies 2, it was kind of like to apologize to the fans. It's like when I did the sequel to The Force Among Us, it was more about, okay, my story wasn't told it all in the first one. Now I want to tell my story after I've told the story about
Yeah.
the fans, So I don't know, 50-50. We could have done a better job breaking the stereotypes, but I don't think we definitely added to them by any means,
Yeah, I don't think for me, I don't think you need to break the stereotypes. I think you did a great job of defining what it is and here's fandom. I think that's what I love about the film. But, we just got to keep on keeping on. And if people don't like who Star Wars fans are, leave us alone. We're fine with that.
Amen to that. I think that's a very good point. I think because can be, especially, 15, 16 years ago, 14 years ago, I was very defensive person. And I hated the N word, the nerd word,
Yeah.
I hated the Saturday Night Live and Steve Chappelle depictions of, Star Wars in a negative light. And even though like now they're like, oh yeah, we all love Star Wars, we're all fans. But 16 years ago, 15 years ago, I did not see it like that. So they made me angry. And I think I wanted to really break the stereotypes because of people like that, the media, Triumph the Insult Dog,
Yeah.
things like that really set me on fire. But I think by the time I got in the middle of the storm of making the film, it turned out. There's a movie called Eight Below. I believe it's Eight Below. It's about the Husky Dogs. And the director said something while I was making this film. I was watching the behind the scenes of this movie. He said, there's a movie you write, a movie you shoot, and a movie that you edit. And I think filmmaking 101, you really have to put that in your mind, because if you don't, you're going to be dicking around with trying to make a film for half your life.
Yeah.
And then that was why Frank did not let me in the editing room, because he's like, dude, this is your first film. You are not going to edit this at all.
No.
We've spent all this time with you. Do you want to release the film now, or do you want to have it sit on the shelf for 10 years?
Yeah. And if you look at Frank's IMDb page, that thing just keeps going and going.
Yes.
So
yeah, very much so. So he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And another thing that I learned, and another filmmaking 101 for, and some of you guys watching this might be in the business, or some of you guys might be thinking about getting in the business. But Frank surrounded me with good people, and you have to trust the good people you're surrounded with. You cannot be a control freak. You can't be an egomaniac. You have to let everybody kind of do their part and have a transparent relationship. And when something's not going right, or when something's going wrong, you have to convert. I mean, just like a marriage, just like a friendship, you have to communicate with people.
Yeah.
And it's so important in the film world, especially because you're spending a lot of money, you're spending a lot of time, and you're trying to get a finished product. Bad things can happen if you don't trust anybody, and you're not feeding off of each other, and it could be disastrous.
Yeah. And it really seemed like you cut your teeth with this movie, because The Force Within Us really expanded your story, which I feel like the whole Chris Mock storyline just keeps going and going, because you introduce the idea in The Force Among Us. Oh, my father, committed suicide when I was 7 years old, and you're in the movie for probably less than a minute.
Right.
And then it's a total switch to Force Within Us, where now you have a narrator or narrator of sorts. You're narrating certain parts, but whereas Force Among Us, it's just sort of, here's all these people we're interviewing. There's a story there, but you as an audience member have to string it along.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is there was one time where Frank's like, you're not going to be in the film. And I thought he was fucking with me. I'm like, it's my film. I got to be in the film. and he goes, no. He goes, but all these people are telling your story. You're like, there's a little bit of me in everybody that you see. Well, maybe not everybody, because there are some crazy people in the documentary. And the reason why they were there is because Frank said, you have to break the stereotype by showing the crazy people in with all the normal people. And you see that through the film,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I was like, I'm not going to be in it. What are you talking about, And it was that suicide comment. Obviously, that Star Wars changed my life that way. and then it was me bringing us to Tunisia and Norway at the end. But a lot of people felt like my story wasn't told in the first one, and it obviously isn't, because the second one is truly all about that. And I want to do this after we do this chat this week. Maybe in 2 weeks, I want to have you come back, and we can, since we're fresh.
Yeah.
I want to chat about the follow up to the Force Among Us for sure.
Yeah, well, I already watched that once this week, so I've got a head start. But we got some pictures we want to look at and some comments, so I'll bring that up here, and let's just see how it goes, because there were so many things that I asked you to just, hey, can we look at this a bit more? John Tenuto, he's my favorite interview throughout this whole thing. And let me go back there. So what was it like to go and talk to someone who was talking about it's not going back?
Well, that's okay. We saw John.
There he is. But what was it like to talk to someone who was talking about Star Wars so eloquently and had some real data behind it?
Well, again, I think talking to John and him teaching the sociology class, to me, that was kind of like the one thing that would help us break the stereotypes. Because here you have this college professor that has these facts, and I feel like John gave us some really, really good facts and numbers, which is good for data. But I don't necessarily think it wasn't a Force Within us kind of deep psychological dive.
No.
But I do feel like he was the spine of the film that kind of helped us stay on track to show that Star Wars people were real people with real lives.
Yeah.
And if you take him out of the film, then you definitely don't break the stereotypes at all. I mean, it's a complete fail, because how do you argue with the teacher that teaches a class that's got the facts and figures? You can't. So I think it was, and the fact that me and John, John was on Machtails, a couple times in the last year, actually, so the fact that I still talk with him, the fact that, we still share this common thread of Star Wars, like I do with you and so many other people from, current times to the past. It's just an example too of not only talking to him and what he did for the film. And he was teaching the class. A requirement for his class was everybody had to own a copy of the DVD
of The Force Among Us.
Yes. So it was a really big paycheck,
There you go.
But it was cool, man. And again, if you take John out, I don't think we touch the surface at all with breaking the stereotypes, No,
I don't know if you touch the surface, but it was certainly, I think you're right on. It's the backbone of the movie. And he provides some real clarity.
I think he provides a lot of clarity that was important.
Yeah. So then you got Dick Staub. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I like this guy. I don't identify as Christian, but he brought a lot of the religious aspects to the movie. I guess, why did you include religion? I mean, Star Wars, obviously, there's a lot of ties to that, but
yes.
It was an interesting person to put in.
Real quick, this is cool because we shot him like pretty much on a sound stage.
Yeah.
And this really gives you the depth of how big this was. And it was literally a white painted wall. And we wanted to shoot Dick because he wrote the book, Christian Wisdom and the Jedi Masters. He wrote, so we wanted to put a bookshelf behind him. We thought it would be cool, right? The guy that wrote the book, there's books behind him. Frank was always big on, you have to put the people in the environment that tells the story, shows the story,
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of gives like a heaven look, right? It's got this white wall behind him.
Absolutely. Isn't that like what's that movie with Steve Carell? Not Anchorman, but he's like the news anchor, Evan Almighty.
Oh yes, Evan Almighty. Yeah.
I think they go to to heaven, and it's just a white space with.
And this was all Frank setting up this shot. But the reason why I put Dick Staub in there was, and I was trying to think, like, how did I find him? I think because I was involved in the church at that time. So I was going through a little bit of a spiritual journey myself, and I always found similarities and ways that Star Wars connects with religion. And I wanted to show that in the film, that there was a spiritual side to Star Wars. And I can't remember how, it might have been as simple as a Google search, Star Wars and religion. And then I found this guy that wrote this book. And the book had come out probably about a year before we filmed him. So it was kind of, current.
Yeah.
And he wrote a couple other books, so he knew what he was talking about. And I'm trying to think if I had to fly him out or not. I know in the beginning you mentioned Kickstarter. There was no Kickstarter. Kickstarter wasn't even around for The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So me and my sister literally paid out of our pocket to make this film. And Frank Yario and the film crew worked pro bono. So I would pay them as I would sell the movies, Actually, Frank and his partner worked that way. But the sound guy, Mike McGrath, who's going to join us in October as well, we would pay him because it was minimal. The audio and the lighting was very, very much affordable to just be like, hey, here's a couple $100 for the day, and then Frank was like, hey, we're going to, you're going to pay me on what you sell. And I promoted the living shit out of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so I think at the end of the day, Frank was happy with the amount that he, I gave him a check even after I got divorced from his cousin. I was married to his cousin.
Oh, really?
That's how. And I still kept the relationship going with him.
Nice.
And I'm like, hey man, I still owe you money. It wasn't like my ex-wife and I got divorced, and then I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get out of owing this money to Frank. No, Frank was very much around, and we had talks about making the sequel together.
Nice.
But then he ended up going to Hollywood, like the song Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Frankie did go to Hollywood because him and his wife work in the business and they wanted to get out of the cold weather. And he's like, well, I guess we're not going to make the sequel after all. But now there's a long story about how things worked out. But I got to tell you, determination is really a huge key factor. But to answer your question, Dick Staub, because I was going through a religious spiritual walk myself, kind of wanted to, tie that into the film. And I just kind of worked out that he was a guy that wasn't super crazy. Because what he says in the film, he doesn't sound like a super, conservative Christian. He's very open about spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
How he doesn't like to impose on people's views. He likes to listen to people, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a pretty cool thing, because sometimes when you see religion or you hear religion, you go like this.
Yep.
Oh, here comes the preaching, right? I don't want to do this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I liked his inclusion in the movie. I'm just also curious about how much did you travel for the movie? I mean, you've got it's like you said, the marketing on this is crazy, and you have all 3 filming locations plastered all over the director's cut DVD cover. But you also went to Ohio. It looks like you went to Florida. I know where, there's so many other places I'm sure you went. Was there a lot of travel involved?
You know what? There probably wasn't as much travel involved as I liked. I know originally we were supposed to go out to Denver to shoot Dan Matson. Mm-hmm. I think we might have even talked about flying out to see Dick Staub. I think he's in Washington State, or he was on the West Coast. So the main big shoot that we had, we shot in Ohio. Mm-hmm. We shot in Florida, and those were very, very similar shoots, right? So the Force.net is it. I know people don't go to websites as much because there's social media, but the Force.net and Rebel Scum were like the big dogs. I mean, Jimmy was affiliated with them in the beginning. The Force cast was huge. Yeah. They were just taking off. That was kind of like that was the podcast show of the biggest Star Wars website.
Yeah.
So, we got a good relationship with them right away. And the Force.net would put out, hey, we're shooting in Ohio because we wanted to film Dustin Roberts.
Hmm.
Because I wanted Dan Matson in the film. And I'm like, if Dan Matson's in the film, well, we got to film the new fan club president, which is Dustin.
Yeah.
Got to show the comparison and the contrast. So then we went to Ohio. They put a casting call pretty much out on TFN and Rebel Scum because Dustin's affiliated with them. And people would show up at Dustin's house. And I went down to Florida to film my mom and my brother Josh.
Yeah.
And same thing. I would put it on TFN and all these people would show up at my mom's house. All these people would show up. Now, I didn't post my mom's address on the internet, but I would give my email and people that were serious would email me and I'd get a little deep dive. Like, hey, what do you do? What's your story?
Yeah.
And so those shoots were very similar because we're like, hey, let's go down and film Dustin. Let's go down to Florida and film my mom, but let's get more people if we can.
Yeah.
Those were the big shoots. And then of course, Norway was the mother lode of all shoots. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Tunisia, I was there in 2005. So I was there about a year and 3 months before we started shooting this doc. And I didn't even have an idea that I wanted to do this. I was going to do me and my ex-wife had an idea where we were going to do like a Plo Koon in costume cleaning the house kind of thing, just a stupid fan film, right?
Oh, fan film of Plo Koon?
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah, sounds great, man. That would have sold a lot.
Yes. That's kind of copyright infringement, right?
Yeah.
And then my sister had this idea. Let's do Confessions of a Star Wars Fan.
Yeah, with the black bar
with the black and the distorted voices. And I'm like, no, man. I'm like, let's fucking, if we're gonna do this, let's do it serious, Let's do this seriously. And everybody knows the story. Me and my sister were at an Irish pub, and I show up the next day with this script and this outline, and my sister's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "This is the movie we talked about last night." She goes, "That was drunk talk." I'm like, "Yeah, but when I drink, I think, and I get shit done."
And that's why you did Machtails, man. So you can do both at the same time.
Too. Yes. So traveling, like I said, a couple places, but maybe not as much as we perceived it to be in the documentary. I think that was maybe a little bit of movie magic,
Yeah. And then there's a good Star Wars group in Illinois. A lot of people, a lot of big names, I'd say, came from Illinois, which is, it's local.
Yeah, when we shot Tenuto at the school, we had people at the school do that thing.
Yeah, College of Lake County, that's
College
right
of Lake County. Yeah, so we always try to group in as many interviews as we could instead of just going there to shoot one thing and calling it a day, right? I mean, because you're paying people to come out.
Yeah.
You want to make the most of it, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. Totally. Sorry. Fudging up the little buttons here. But I don't know. There's just so much going on. And so you met Sean and Alfie in 97, 99. When did you meet these guys?
Oh shit! I met Sean and Alfie in 1999, and this shot here, one of my favorites. I think Alfie was like, "Hey, you want me to put on my Wookiee costume and ride the bike down the street?" And this is the first thing that we shot. The first thing of the entire documentary was Sean and Alfie, and this was the very first thing we ever shot was him riding the bike down the street.
And if you want to see a Wookiee almost eat it on a bike, I would recommend going to YouTube and looking up WGN, The Force Among Us, and just watching their whole tidbits. Mocked, I'm pretty sure it was you who did this, where you just edited all of the WGN advertisement for The Force Among Us.
Yes.
And in that, Alfie is in this, Chewbacca costume, and he almost eats it on camera.
Yeah,
and it's a good scene. So check that out.
The thing about Alfie too is, he's very athletic. He's he's black belt. He's a snowboarder, and he's always trying to do. And this was 15 years ago, so he's always trying to think and do crazy shit. But it was funny. The first thing that we shot was this. I mean, could you imagine like the film crew like in the middle of the street, and this is the first thing they shoot? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
We're going to start the journey by this.
You're like, this is it right here. This is the journey.
But they loved it. They
Yeah.
loved it, and they were sold. You know, the thing too, Frank was sold when I asked him. I said, Frank, you know, I met with this independent filmmaker that was introduced to me from somebody that I played with in the church band. And I met this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna charge you 10 grand to make this movie, and you know, you're not gonna write it and direct it anymore. We're gonna take the right." And I'm like, "Why do I want to pay you 10 grand and not have anything to do with my movie?"
Yeah.
So I call Frank, and I'm like, "Frank, you big, you know, working on Spider-Man, we worked on Backdraft, we worked on all these big movies."
Hmm.
I'm like, "Can you give me some advice?" He goes, "You know what? Every time I see you at the holidays, you're like, pass the mashed potatoes. By the way, did you see that part in Star Wars?" So he knew that I was just always on fire with Star Wars. And he's like, "You know what, man? You're a creative guy. Spent a lot of time in the music business. You know, you're an artist that way." He's like, "You know what? I'm going to give you the time of day, and we're going to get this done for you." And again, without him, I would not be sitting here 15 years later with new projects and talking about the first one that we did, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. He was hugely instrumental. Seems like, man.
So I met with Sean and Alfie, and
Yeah.
yeah, Frank was super instrumental. Now this shot here,
Yeah.
this is what essentially became what we wanted to become the real fans of the saga. Alfie is in here in the kitchen with his wife sitting at the table. Okay. And you can see like there's lights, there's sound. I mean, it looks like a science lab right there. And it was weird because we shot this scene with Alfie's wife that never made it into the film. And it was Alfie walking into the kitchen in his clone trooper and training costume, and his wife
Mhm.
just going, "Why? Why?" And you know, the Hollywood guys, they made her do this take like 20 times. I'm
Oh,
like, "Dude,
wow.
we don't need to do this. This isn't a
Yeah.
movie where we need to act on, you know,
Yeah.
a documentary." So we spent all this time, and it never even saw the light of day, you know. But the real fans of the saga came from the things that we did not achieve. Like this is an example, you know, the guy's at
Hmm.
home, he's cosplaying. His wife's like, "What are you doing?" You know, so everything that I do and that I work on, it's just a continuation of things that I didn't achieve from the last project.
Yeah. Well, they're just little ideas that you've packed away, much like
Yes,
George
yes.
Lucas. Um, and I think what really surprised me when I saw this photo the first time was when you see the shot in the movie, you know, cameras back in 2006 weren't like they are today. They weren't as affordable to have high quality and stuff like that. So it sort of looks like it's on a Potato 2000 camcorder.
Right.
Um, but like when you see this, it's like, oh my God, you got 6 people there. Just
Yeah, right, right.
there is production value there. You just have to, think
You know,
about what
I
you're
think
watching.
I think that's the thing. You said production value. That's exactly what Frank brought to the table. And this guy here, I want to say his name is Rick Thomas, right? He only worked on the first day. He's the
Mhm.
guy in the black shirt
The with the camera or the
with the
one,
camera. Yeah, his
yeah.
big thing was he worked on Flags of Our Fathers.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
And he actually had more knowledge
Mhm.
of making film. And you know, it's funny. These guys work in Hollywood. They always wanted to do their own independent project. So it was almost kind of like one hand washing the other. Hey, I'm going to use your expertise, and they're like, hey, we're going to have you help us achieve our lifelong goal as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it
We're
takes some gall to, make an independent movie for sure, and you've done it multiple times now. So,
But you know,
yeah.
so Rick was on the first day and just kind of set the tone for us because Frankie said, "Hey, we're all going to get our feet wet together." The first day, I think we had 12 people as the crew, and as Frankie realized what we were trying to achieve, he realized that we don't need to spend money on a 12-person crew, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, the quality that they bring, that was the thing too. When I released this, fan films were very, very big. And people were like, "Oh, you're making a fan film?" And I'm like, no, I am not making a fucking fan film. I'm like, fan films don't go to Norway and pay $20,000 out of their own pocket to get done.
Yep.
Fan films use the camcorders and they fool around, you know, in the back, you know, the back alleyway and whatnot, and put some effects in and that sort of thing. So again, Frank really brought the quality, the production value there. Um, And now it's Ian. Ian's my guy. Ian's my brother. You know, he's the guy that helps me get things done. And obviously, I still shoot on the same camera that not the
Yeah,
exact same camera, but the same model.
same model. Yeah.
Yeah, we've used that for the real fans of the saga, like some third camera cutaway shots and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't mean to insult you or anything about the camera
All right,
quality.
all right.
It just, you know, you're still learning. It's pretty clear in this movie. You're cutting your teeth, you know.
Yes,
So,
yes. I think I was definitely cutting my teeth. Definitely learning a lot.
mhm.
And you know, I think you know, the frustration that I got from this had a lot to do with making the second one. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you got, is this Alfie's basement? I'm assuming
Yeah,
where
that was
you're at.
Alfie's basement. Alfie's son, who is also in the real fans of the saga. Um, yeah, that was Alfie's basement. And one of my favorite scenes, aside from Norway, is we put this music video montage almost
Oh yeah, yeah.
that kind of breaks up the film.
Mhm.
And I love the music is by Drums and Tuba. Drums and Tuba was on Annie DeFranco's label. And I saw them open up for Primus in 2006. And I went home and I'm like, hey, man, can I use your music for my film? If it wasn't for Primus, I would never have fallen in the hands of Drums and Tuba, who provided a lot of music for this. You know, the ambient space type stuff.
Did
But I
they do
love
that?
that scene with them fighting with the lightsabers. One of my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Did they do that song "Feeling the Urge"? Automatic Surge.
Yes, that was them. That was Drums and
Yeah,
Tuba.
that has been in my head all
Yeah.
week.
Well, that song too. That's the one that they fight. That's the whole
Yeah,
video
yeah,
montage.
yeah.
Yeah, just some fun music, you know.
Oh yeah, tons of fun music, man. I saw I did see one guy online. I watched a couple of reviews of Force Among Us this week, and there was one guy complaining about the music. Um and I was just like, man, I don't get you. I don't get you at
Yeah, you
all.
know, the funny thing is, music is very much like Star Wars, religion, and politics. You know, it's an acquired taste for that certain thing. And if anybody complained about the music, I mean, I really can't take that as an insult because I personally love the music.
Mhm.
And that's the feel and the vibe that I was going for in the film. And
Yeah.
one of the first cuts didn't have all this music in there. And a friend of mine, beautiful piano player, also a friend of Alfie's, uh, he had music contributed, but it was too soft. It was too beautiful, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It didn't have any grit. And the first cut of The Force Among Us had that in there. And I'm like, man, that's just, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't fit right. I was very happy with the music. I do know that there's a shit ton of music in there, but that was the point I
Mhm.
was going for. You know me, man. I
Yeah.
always have to, and Rich Brendel too. He goes, when somebody turns the music off when we're hanging out having beers in a hotel room, it's a kryptonite feeling. So my sound guy goes, "What's with the constant rock and roll show?" And I'm like, "It's fucking music, brother.
Yeah, you gotta have it, man.
You gotta have it, especially when people are talking. You have to have instrumental music when people are talking."
Yeah, and music is in most movies. I feel like people just don't really acknowledge it as much
And I
unless
do
it's
know
Star
that we
Wars.
used a lot of music in here, but it was accessible to us at the same time, you know.
Yeah, it's part of your life too. That kid's like 15 now, right? That's insane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's 15. Yeah. It's 15 now. Yeah, it's nice to see that Amazon still has a 3.5 rating for The Force Among Us. And on IMDb, we got a 7.7 rating. And, you know, there's a lot of critics out there. I think those ratings for those platforms are, to me, I can't really complain about that.
Nah,
You
not for your
know,
first movie, man. That's pretty good. But we should get that up to a 5 on Amazon.
we need
You
to
know.
get it. We're so close to a 4. I don't think we can get it to a 5, but there's enough people that watch this show. Just
Yeah.
go leave a review. At least just go leave a star and just, you know, you don't even have to put a review.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite parts here is where you're comparing Duffy and the 501st to Sean and Alfie with the Mando mashups.
Yes, yes.
And so do you think that conflict still exists.
Yes, I do. And you know what? I'm chiming in on the chat here. And yes, Rich does say, it's kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
Rich, Patreon member Rich Brendel and friend says Amazon has the Force Within Us. Was filmed in 1970.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that was a problem with Amazon for you guys, independent filmmakers that are thinking about putting something up there. Amazon is very fickle about shit. Yeah, Star Wars wasn't even around in 1970, as we know. it's kind of crazy and rich. Oh, you know what? We are interrupting the show because my sister is joining us right now, and she is on limited time. Hey, Cord, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Hey, how's it going?
Happy Friday.
Cheers.
Hey, this is a special treat because I was not expecting my sister to join the show. So, Tyler, you're prepared for my sister. Tyler is my good friend and moderating tonight. And
hey, Tyler.
Hey, Courtney.
My sister Courtney. Hey, this is a good reunion here. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. So, Courtney, what was it like? I mean, I've seen Mocked at his most anxious, I think. What was it like filming this movie with him? Were there days where you just wanted to strangle him?
No, I mean, I grew up with him.
Yeah. I'm not. Every time I hang out with him, I'm like, geez.
Yeah, you know what? I think if you're going to make a movie with somebody, it should be somebody you're fully aware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so no, I mean, no. I think we knew each other well enough, brother, sister, and seen each other at best and worst and right down the middle. So no, not at all.
Nice.
None of those moments. It was blast. It was all fun. It was an adventure. I mean, I don't know, Chris. I don't feel like we had any tense.
No, I mean, if anything, my birthday in Los Angeles got a little nutty.
Well, that was exhausting. That was not, yeah.
Celebration.
The exhaustion of the day, for sure. There was a lot of exhaustion more than
that was more promoting it, you know?
Yes, 100%.
But no, we did not fight. If anything, I think this film helped us grow closer together.
Yeah.
Nice. One of the things, especially nowadays, right, Tyler, because what Ashley Eckstein did with her universe and with all the female fans coming out, I need to say that my sister is behind this movie that's 15 years old and female fan, I mean, the females were there in the beginning, and I don't know, Cord, I know you've seen this resurgence with female Star Wars fans, but you've been there for so long. Did you feel like you were kind of hurt a little bit through being part of this documentary?
No. When you say hurt or heard?
Heard. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I heard hurt too.
That's what I heard. Okay. All right.
That's my East Coast accent.
Okay. Not off base with that. No, but I think it was an interesting time. I think all of those people you mentioned definitely helped bring more light to the female fan. But I think when we started, when we looked at all the different types of fans, there was, I think, more of a stereotype with the female fan personally. And the female fan was either more nerdy, stereotyped way more nerdy than a male fan, almost to an unacceptable range, or it was overly sexualized.
Yeah.
You kind of see that through the film.
Slave Leia. Yes. Yeah. So I think what those people did was find more of that middle ground for really who we are, because it was one spectrum or the other. You were either incredibly nerdy, almost ostracized, or it was overly sexualized as a female fan.
Yeah. You want to just exist as who you are and just be a fan.
Yeah, just meet me where I am. Exactly. Meet me where I am.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important part. And I mean, I think that you've shown that in some other aspects, mocked in some of your other productions, but I think that stereotype still exists to this day, unfortunately. But hopefully soon enough, though, people will come around. I think it's starting to turn. But
yeah, I definitely feel like it's getting better for sure.
Yeah.
So, Court, 15 years. Does it feel like 15 years?
No, that kind of makes me sad. That it makes me feel old.
I know that's my double-edged sword being an anniversary guy, because you have to add the year in front of what you're celebrating. And there were so many people today on Facebook like, holy shit, that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
We all feel super old, and the time goes super fast. What now after the smoke had cleared, Court, do you feel what was your one favorite part where you're like, man, I still think about that to this day?
From the filming?
Yeah, from the filming experience.
Norway was just, yeah.
Okay, yeah. How can it be anything else, right?
I mean, that was absolutely incredible. Norway, hands down.
Hey,
why are we not there right now doing this?
Yeah. Hey, okay. So I wanted you to explain this, because I know the story from you, but getting the film crew to Norway was hell, and I really want you to explain it, because you were there firsthand. I was there before you. You came in with the film crew.
I don't know what to explain. I'll tell a funny story. I'm shocked that even post 9/11 we got through security with as many battery packs as we did. I just remember Mike being with a backpack just completely loaded with battery packs and sound gear, and he was carrying it on his back. It was almost like a military rucksack. And I even said, I'm like, I think I'm going to space myself from him going through security. I don't know how this is good. And they did harass him a little bit. Well, not even harass. They were like, what is this all for? So that was a funny story, getting on the plane itself and through security.
But the plane, it was like a little Frontier plane.
It was so I've flown international before, and I've always loved because the planes are a little bit more roomy, right? Because you're flying further distances. And this was absolutely more of a, hey, I'm flying from Chicago to Nashville plane. It was, 2 to 3, people apart, no reclining. Mike could not recline at all, sound guy. So he had his big battery backpack underneath his seat in the front, underneath the seat, and the seat wouldn't recline. And I think at one point he looked over at us and was like, will anybody switch with me? Will anybody and we're like, no, not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I think the way that I pay, and you kind of get what you pay for. I think the way that I paid for that was with points, rewards points.
Well, the plane ride was funny. It wasn't awful, but it was just so cool. When you land and you're in Oslo, and then getting on the train and seeing the landscape of Norway, and then making your way up into the glacier, and it was awesome. Just absolutely awesome.
So when you got off the train because you took a train right from Oslo to Finns.
Yep.
So when you got off of that train, what was that feeling like? Were you just freezing and get me the hell inside, or were you like, oh my God, it's beautiful?
Oh my God, it's beautiful. Yeah. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Wow. I've never seen anything like this before. I'm excited to explore, anxious, nervous to see what this is all about. But making your way through the various towns and landscapes, and just seeing as it progresses from city, up into just glacier, snow.
I mean, it really beautiful. Felt like when you were there, for me, I stepped into Hoth.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that.
Oh, absolutely.
It was that beautiful. And I remember the film crew's coming in on the train. I'm looking at my watch. The airlines lost all my luggage.
No.
So I'm skiing on the cross country skiing on the flat land right by the glacier, and I remember going to the train and just seeing, because I was really worried, like, what if my film crew doesn't get here? When they stepped off the train, I was like, okay, this is where the fun is really gonna begin. This is where the fun starts, as Anakin said. But it was a relief when they got there. And I remember Court left on her birthday.
Yeah.
Court left on her birthday. And they had, I had FOMO a little bit because she was with the film crew celebrating her birthday in Oslo. And I remember just getting so emotional for like the third time that day and saying goodbye to Courtney on her birthday. We're leaving Norway, like it's done. It's like that fear of rap was really setting in. And
was that the last thing you shot?
The last thing I shot was my interview. that was the last big thing we shot was Norway. But I felt like it was just so hard to leave that place.
That's so beautiful.
Fear of rap really set in because, you get to this pinnacle, right, of making this documentary, which is going to where they filmed Empire Strikes Back. How can you not emotionally crash from that?
Yeah.
It was hard too because you're trying to not intrude on, that was people, that was their trip, right? That was their experience. And I wanted to have an experience, but we were also there to film their experience. So it was definitely a delicate balance of not.
Yes, you're talking about with the people that were there on Mark Jamal's trip.
Yeah, just not intruding on their experience because they did, right? They signed up and paid and wanted to do this experience, and we didn't want to. I didn't want to intrude, but I was also wanting to enjoy the experience at the same time. So it was definitely a balance of, how you film, but also how you get to interact with them without making it intrusive. So they were getting the most out of their experience as well. They paid for that.
Yes. No, you know what? It's funny because we became friends with them, after that, even more so. I was friends with some of these guys from Tunisia. But yeah, there was this delicate balance because you have these people paying a lot of money to experience Star Wars a way that they see it. And I'm like, here I come with the film crew. So it was just one of those things. And the thing about putting up the film crew at the hotel, it was Easter weekend, so it was sold out.
True, yeah.
And I'm like, what? I worked in the industry to some degree. I'm like, there is always a room available. I'm like, look, we're shooting a documentary. Tell me what it's going to cost to put up my film crew there. And now there were bunk beds. Court, you shared with Mike.
Yeah, we had a bunk bed.
You guys, it was weird. It was, but you paid like a shit ton of money and you were sharing a room with somebody.
Yeah, but it was so comfortable and you were so tired after such a long day. Just to have it was like cavernous. So, it was dark, it was cozy. That didn't bother me at all. And I felt like we all paired up pretty nicely.
Yes. Except I was with Mark and I didn't have earplugs and Mark snored like crazy. But I got to share this story because this one, Court, you were part of this. And this is a deep cut of the behind the scenes. So we go to Ohio to film Dustin Roberts. And that was probably it was maybe like in January or February. And we're at the bar. I'm partaking in this. I'm partaking in that. And I say, there was some kind of conversation that me and Court had with Frank. And Frank's like, yeah, we'll go to Norway if you're going to get us there, but you got to bring Mike. And then the deal we had with Mike is, Mike, we cannot pay you any more from here on out. If we need you, you're working for free because we're paying for you to go to Norway. And Mike said, sure, I'll waive the rest of. We didn't even pay him to go to Norway. We paid him to get him to Norway, but we didn't pay him when he was there working. So he was there working for beer and food.
Yeah. But it was so fun and it was so beautiful. And I I tell people all the time, I mean, that's one place I wish I would have had more time at. Not just
you guys were in and out
infants.
so fast.
Yeah, not just infants, but the city itself and the other side of Norway, and just an amazing place.
So that birthday that you had in Oslo with the film crew,
Yeah,
was that memorable? Was that one of the memorable?
absolutely. I think at one point we walked into some death metal bar on the way home. Like,
Oslo death metal. Yeah, that's like
for sure. And well, everything's closed because of Easter. Like, those are the only places that are open. And I was like, this is great. Why not?
Satanic death metal in Oslo on Easter's weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, how many people can say that?
On your birthday, you can't make that up, man.
I can say it.
You can't make that up. But hey, Court, I know your time is valuable. I know you got a lot going on. Tyler, was there anything in front of your notes that you wanted to hit my sister with before we let her
I'm sorry,
go?
Tyler. I threw you for a loop here. I just hopped on.
No, you're totally fine. I'm just happy to, see you and talk to you for the first time, because Macht is a good friend of mine, and, it's good to see his family a bit.
Awesome.
So, yeah. No, I don't have anything else, Macht. I think I'm good.
I'm
sorry.
No, okay. Before we let Court go, the one thing that was the most challenging to film was we went over to Sand Troopers, Chris Rhodes' house, and we're filming in the basement, and I felt like there were too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't fucking do this. And I'm like, I give it to Court. I'm like, Court, you finish these interviews.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
And Court was like, okay, I'm going to hone in on these guys and get this done. But that was very, very, very. That's probably the most stressful. That was more stressful than going to Norway.
The Sand Troopers guys, they were being chiefs, or
there were too many guys, and they were trying to.
Well, you got 3 of them there, and they all got their computers and trying to look busy.
They look busy, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think just overall in the interviews that we did, there was a general concern of, how people would be portrayed. I hate to do a deep cut on you all there, but I don't disagree with them, right? So there was a sense of over control in that environment, because they were like, how am I going to come across? How will I be edited? What kind of questions are they going to ask me? And there were several interview situations like that. And so then on the other side, there was, they wanted to control the situation. Okay. And I honestly don't disagree with that, right? Because there's general concern. Like, I don't want to be on a film portrayed in a certain way that's not really authentic to myself. And I felt like there was just a lot of that happening, right? Like, let me just try to overly control. And it got frustrating. And then when you don't trust each other, it becomes more frustrating. They're not sure how they're going to come out on the other side. So, and I believe that's fair. I believe that was fair in what they were saying. So that's good that Christian and I were able to trade off on situations like that, because I felt like I got that, and I got what they were trying to do, and, just ease them into, we're not going to edit you to make you look a certain way for how we feel you should look. That's not what the film was about. That's what we were trying to show, like the opposite of that. And we really wanted that to come across in the end result of the film.
I think when you make out of the other projects that I did after this one, I felt like there was always somebody that was like, hey, what are you trying to do to me here, man? Like, I'm like, no, I'm not making Trekkies, man. I don't want to show anybody in a bad light. But it's funny, Court, you say that, and you were speaking theoretically, which I don't want to be on film in a bad light. Yeah. So Frank really wanted Court to be on film. He's like, dude, we got to get your sister on film, just reading kind of like random Star Wars facts that kind of break up the movie. And Court's like, no, I'm not going to be on film. Actually, that's why Court was not in The Force Within Us. She was asked, but she's like, dude, I don't want to be on film. I didn't want to be in the first one. Why do I want to be in the second one? So, but it was a lot of good fun. I think, making the second one without my sister was a little bittersweet. The sweet part was that I was able to do it, but she was already busy with so much other stuff going on that it was weird to do a second film, because she was such a big part of the first film. She was everything we shot, you were there, except for like the Dick Staub thing. You weren't there for, but that was probably it. And
yeah, everything, even Norway. Woo!
Yeah, Norway. And the crazy that Norway, we were going to do Mark Jamol over Skype because Skype was like the big thing back then. And we're like, no, we can't. That would totally cheapen the film, right? Cheapen the film, take away everybody's wonderful experience. So,
Yep.
All right, Court. Well, I'm going to let you go. I love you. Thanks so much
love you
for
too.
jumping on.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Nice meeting you, Courtney.
Nice to meet you.
See you soon. So I was glad that she joined. Now I do want to, because I have this Steven Spielberg, not this Steven Spielberg talent, but this Steven Spielberg way of thinking. I know we were talking about Duffy before my sister jumped on.
Yeah.
So Duffy was the second thing that we had shot that same day. So we drove all the way from Naperville.
Where Alfie's at.
Bartlett area. We drove all the way from Bartlett all the way up to Crystal Lake. And, so yes, there was a lot of, I would say there was a lot of, there's still a lot of controversy, right? With the 501st.
Yeah.
Because if you don't mind, can we get the image of Duffy?
Yeah, let's do it.
So it's funny.
Wow,
you had said that, his wife, the funny thing is, yes, you would think that's his wife, but it is not.
There we go.
Amy became, but we got that a lot because we don't clarify that, right? Amy became the CFO, is it? Like the main person of the 501st.
She says it in the documentary. She says the main person, because in the documentary she's like, I'm the Illinois.
No, she becomes like
commander.
the main person for the 501st eventually. Okay. Several years after that. But the funny thing is, so Amy shows up. She's partaking in this, partaking in that, and she's late. And the film crew's standing around waiting for her. And she goes in there and she's like, oh my God. She goes, what the hell's going on here? Duffy's like, I told you, my friend Chris is making a film. She goes, I thought it was going to be like little camcorders.
Yeah.
So we put makeup on Amy for the camera. And she's like, what's going on? And it was so funny because even she thought we weren't going to be making this highly produced thing. So I wanted to show this was like, I'm a big fan of Michael Moore, and I mean, I'm going to use my Michael Moore influence. There's Mike, the sound guy, my sister referenced, sitting next to Duffy as the stand-in. And I wanted to show that there was this controversy in this costuming group,
Mm-hmm.
And in that kitchen, in Duffy's kitchen, me and him always had a lot of great conversations about Star Wars, which eventually was not achieved until the real fans of the saga and even on Machtails from the Cantina. But there's a lot of good memories in that kitchen that I had with him, just drinking beers till late hours of the evening and just, talking deeply about Star Wars and what it did for our lives,
Yeah, well, that's the purity of Star Wars, I think, is those conversations. There's a lot of Star Wars now exists online, and that is awesome, and I love it. But there's nothing better than just sitting down with some buddies, whether it's over Zoom or whatever you use.
Yeah, I mean,
or in person,
Yes, I think even Zoom is okay, especially because of what just happened last year.
Yeah,
but it's still not the same as getting face to face with someone.
No.
And Duffy was the one that gave me the idea because he was always bitching about the 501st members. And I actually lost a little bit of my friendship with him when he joined the 501st because he spent so much time with it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I don't want to go to the bar with Chris anymore because I'm going to hang out with my 501st buddies. I'm like, come on, man. You're going to kick me to the curb like that? So just shooting him and listening to his stories and complaints, that gave me the idea like, hey, there's a much bigger picture to this. Now, I do think that there's more controversy within the 501st group
mm-hmm.
than there are with non-costumers. I should say costumers that are not part of the 501st.
Yeah.
I believe that stigma has kind of been lost over time because we live in a time where people do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah, and the 501st is so big now. It's sort of, I mean, not that they have any trouble trying to maintain it or enforce the rules. I think they're pretty strict still, but
I think they become so big now, though, that it's taken away the early days of like, hey, there was 5 of us, and we would go here, and we would go there. Now there's 100 of us,
yeah, or 1,000. And
or
George Lucas
1,000 of us.
is letting us.
Celebration, it's like there's 20,000 501st members, and it's definitely there's a lot of this movie that is still relevant today, minus what Star Wars became with social media and whatnot. But I think there's still a lot of the underlying things. Like there's still controversy in the 501st group,
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's so instrumental. It's just for your fandom experience, is because it teaches you this is how this stuff started. This is what it is. Here's sort of the situation going on. I watched this. So I got back into Star Wars in 2015, 2014, somewhere around there. That's when I started listening to Rebel Force Radio. And you got on in May of 2016 to plug Real Fans of the Saga. And you plugged, obviously they were like, oh, Force Among Us, the original TFA, the Force Within Us, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when I watched these. And for me, I didn't have I knew who the 501st were. I knew some of these things, but this movie gave me like a download to my brain. Like, this is what this crap is 100%. And it filled in a lot of the gaps in my knowledge. So I appreciate
that's
that.
Good, because that's what a documentary should do.
Yeah. Exactly. I will have to ask one question about Duffy, because there's a scene in the movie, at least in the director's cut, where Duffy is putting on his boots and he's got a cigarette hanging from his mouth. He's just sort of looking badass. But you show that scene, show the exact same cut 2 times. Is there a reason for that? Or like did the camera like power turn off or something?
No, if we showed that twice, it was probably, if we showed that scene twice, it was probably just extended B-roll. I don't think there's any reason why we show that 2 times. And I don't know, I would have to go back and look at that. It might be a similar shot with him smoking, but we wanted to show too how long it takes somebody under the influence to put on a costume.
That makes sense. Maybe he was fiddling around with his boot.
Trying to go for there, But again, too, like, people don't smoke in movies really anymore. That was kind of more of like a 1950s, 1960s kind of thing. And one thing that I wanted to do, like Courtney just said, people are worried about the way that they're portrayed. I knew that I wanted to show people as real as can be.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to get that with Duffy because he doesn't give a shit. And I'm like, it'd be kind of cool to just show some dude smoking in a documentary, because who sees that?
Yeah, it's very authentic. I mean, and you should never smoke. No one should smoke, but
yeah, I never smoked. I've had a couple of cigarettes with Duffy after late night drinking, but I've never smoked on a regular basis. And neither should anybody else.
We just need to be clear with that, because it's a horrible thing to do. Don't start.
Yes.
But, I mean,
it's 100 times worse than drinking is.
Yeah. But I do love Duffy, man. I've never met him. I'm so looking forward to meeting him someday. Almost met him a couple weeks ago.
Come. Yeah, we're going to do a Machtails live from his house someday.
Let's
do it. And you will be there.
So now we got the infamous Angry Mike. And this is when he does the drum solo right at the end. Not drum solo, like the brunts.
Yes.
To end that little disclaimer you have at the beginning. So just what's going on with Angry Mike? I mean, he's in the Force Within Us for maybe 2 minutes. And I think one of the reasons why I brought him back in the Force Within Us, because I wanted to show people that he was my cousin.
Yeah. My blood. He's got the skull tattoo.
Yeah.
I always forget what that's called.
Mythosaur? Not the it's a mythosaur.
Yeah,
right?
the mythosaur tattoo. Yes,
Yeah.
and he got that a long time ago. And me and see, the thing is too, a lot of the casting, if you will, came from all my friends and family
Mm-hmm.
that I had this Star Wars relationship with, you know. And I knew he was, kind of crazy about Jar Jar Binks, and I'm like, you know what? That seems to be just one of those controversial things that has been there since the beginning. I'm like, why not talk about that? And I remember when we showed that clip at Celebration, when we were promoting the film, we got it. There was almost there wasn't a standing ovation, but it was loud, like we just played Freebird, and people went nuts for seeing him on screen. And I'm like, that's cool. That
Wait, when you say that clip, was it the scene where he's imitating Jar Jar?
Yeah, that whole Jar Jar thing where he kind of flips out. And the crazy thing too, this is some deep behind the scenes stuff. So my cousin Mike, in that basement, that is where, this is more of an inside the vault for Mocktails, but I need to share it because I just saw the photo. They bought the house from my cousin Glenn. And there's a lot of Star Wars memories in that basement from before Mike was even born. And we shot Glenn in The Force Within Us at that house and in the backyard. But it's funny because we borrowed that from my aunt because she was living there now, instead of my cousin Glenn's family. So yeah, I was really close to my family, and that's why I wanted to include them in this project, because they, again, the conversations that I had with them just inspired me to do this project,
Yeah. And I mean, Star Wars is a family affair. You have all your friends and family in this movie. You have a lot of them in Force Within Us, and obviously real fans of the saga. And I mean, for me, this movie, I feel like is starting to be, it's the start of a dialogue between you and your coming of age story, and how you've reignited with Star Wars, and a little bit, at least I think it's starting a conversation of, coming to terms with your father's suicide. And I think you're never, that's going to keep going. That's like an ongoing conversation that will never end.
Especially with my daughter the same age now, as I was when I lost my dad. I feel like I was past that, especially after The Force Within Us. I say I'm at peace with my life. I've
at the
moved
very
on,
end, that's it. I'm done.
But it's not that way, man. Especially now. And I do look forward to making a third one, because there's always a trilogy in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I really want to do one that focuses on fandom now and my relationship with my daughter and her relationship with Star Wars.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, man. But you say you hate this movie, and I want to approach that because I don't hate this movie. But why? Like, what's the reasoning behind that? Because
okay,
I think it's really
a bit of a strong way. If I hated the movie, I wouldn't want to talk about it, right?
Yeah. You don't like it. That's what you said. Yeah.
Hate is a little bit of a strong word, and I've said that about this film. But I think what happened was, when I went on this world tour to promote this documentary, and you're playing it at conventions, and you're playing it at the booth where you're selling the DVD, and you hear it and you see it, and you're just like, okay, God, I would have done this differently. I would have done that differently. And, so I think it's just, our good friend Sheldon from north of the border said it best. He goes, holy shit, man, you made a movie? And Sheldon's been working in the movie business for a long time.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how hard it was to make a film until, like, I had that comment and compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very big compliment. And, the thing that I disliked about it was not enough B-roll, too much talking head. Talking head is where you have a head talking, very much like we're doing now. There wasn't a lot to work with. You know, there should have been more to work with, but there wasn't, and that came from me being inexperienced and Frank being smart enough. Like, hey, we got enough to make this into something. We got to get this done.
Yeah. There's a
You
time
know,
limit.
because you could spend years working. I mean, look at Patrick Reed Johnson, man. 5/25/77. That movie, he was working on that thing for 15 years.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing just dragged out for a long. Real fans of the saga. It takes a long time to get something done. The fact that Frank came in, we're gonna get this done. Here it is. It's like, okay, wow, this is it. You know.
Yeah.
But my complaint was talking, and that's the difference between the director's cut and the original. Was I went in and I put a lot more B-roll in there.
Yeah, and I think in The Force Within Us, you use a lot more transitions in between talking heads or
hands
scenes,
down.
and that makes that movie flow so
so much
clean.
better. Yes,
it's so
I remember Paul Bateman, another good friend of ours that's been working in the business. I sent The Force Within Us to him because he did the cover for that.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Wow, man!" He's like, "You really grew as a filmmaker quite quickly."
Yeah,
you know. And I think what happened was the aggravation, the frustration, and the not knowing about making another film until I met Ian.
Yeah,
Frank left. You know, I had a conversation with Mike, the sound guy. Hey, I need a film crew. Hey, they want to charge you $10,000. Same shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'll do this for you, pro bono kind of thing. I think, you know, it was just the fact that we got it done was huge. You know, it was such a big part that I didn't understand how big it was until it was done.
Yeah, and then I mean, after that, you can just go and say, "Hey guys, I'm Chris Macht. I made a movie." And
yeah, right.
That's that's a nice thing to add to the resume.
Yeah, now I'm adding to the resume slowly, you know, but yeah, I still can't believe that we did go to Norway, and I can't believe that we were going to do this on Skype with Mark.
Yeah, I mean, you knocked it out of the park by choosing to go there, man. One question I got about Mark, right here, this scene. So in the bottom left, normally for, I would say, the stars of The Force Among Us, you'll have their name and sort of a description of who they are.
Yes.
Not for everyone, though, which is probably one of my complaints, because I'm walking through the movie and I'm like, I don't know who the hell this is.
Yeah, we did get a lot of that as that was a little bit of backlash. Like, who are these people?
But I understand, like, when I think about it, I understand where you're coming from, because you're like, you just sort of want this to be this anonymous fan, right? These are just fans, and the people who matter are the people with the titles. So, but he has a different font. He has a different font than anyone else in the movie. It's sort of a stylized, like, cursive.
Yeah, I think I'm going to guess and assume, just, thinking the way that my old crew thought, Mark was a big autograph collector.
That makes sense.
And it's kind of got like a almost like a signature kind of font, you know? And, for some reason in the middle, he wanted to promote his autograph service. Which I was a part of for a long time, and God, he always never overcharged. I mean, he was always charging like $20 for an 8x10, just like everybody else was back in the day. If you met them in person.
Yeah.
So he was just charging the show price, but I think because the font was more for the autograph look.
And when he tells a story about going to David Prowse and saying, "Hey, I need 50 autographs." Did he get 50 autographs like that? If I was Dave Prowse, I'd just be like, "Yeah, all right, buddy, bug off." But
no, you know what? Because Mark had this relationship with these people, and he paid Prowse for the 50 autographs.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like David Prowse saw him as, I don't know if you want to call him a friend, but definitely an acquaintance that was a client.
Yeah.
David's like, well, shit, if you're going to buy 50 autographs, then yeah, sure. I'll sign those for you.
Yeah. And this location here is Norway, right? This is the hotel.
That is the hotel. Yes. And that is my sister, Courtney, sitting in for Mark.
And this is the same hotel that they filmed from for Empire,
Yes, correct.
right
Yeah,
out the
this
door.
this is a room that is, on the second floor. It's weird. Like nobody. The only time we went in this room
Mm.
was for this interview, and I can't tell you and explain to you how much that I'm sorry, I'm reading somebody's comments here, and I would like to get to them, but I don't know if that's for me or just for the people in the chat room. It's very distracting. um, the hotel was very generous with giving us free reign.
Yeah.
Hey, we're sold out. Hey, I want to get a film crew. Okay, you need 2 rooms. This is what it's going to cost. They were just very accommodating. Hey, we need to film in this room. We need to film in that room. We need a quiet room. Sure, wherever you want to film, this is what we're going to, whatever you need to do, let's do it,
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
And
I
then
mean,
they did not take $1 from us except for all the lodging fees. Which, mind you, was not cheap.
Is Mark? I don't think Mark's doing those trips anymore, is he? Where he's being a tour guide.
No, I think
Nah.
Mark slowed down, and he's doing a whiskey thing now.
He's doing the whiskey reviews, which I do appreciate. I've checked those.
I want to
out.
read so Rich says that
Yeah.
we're going to get a visit from Angry Mike tonight, and no, a little deep cut behind the scenes. Me and Mike, we don't have a relationship anymore. I know that sounds crazy. That's maybe more for the Mocktails from the Cantina podcast episode you get on Patreon. Very personal story, but me and my cousin Glenn, we don't talk anymore. I do talk to Angry Mike's cousin Angel though, and John Drake says, did you give them any control and to make edits based on what they wanted to be portrayed like? We gave nobody in the film any control. Actually, Frank Yario doesn't even have any control. Nobody has control but me. Like when I did the director's cut, I'm like, I'm doing this. I don't have to ask anybody. This is what it's going to be. It's done. The only bummer is that the hard drive with all the footage that we shot from the first film, it got wiped out. It shouldn't say got wiped out, but the disk doesn't work inside the Maxter hard drive. The hard drive is probably from like 2005, 2006. Sent it out to 5 different places. They cannot retrieve the data on it. So Frank says, yeah, I got the footage, but it's sitting in a trailer somewhere in storage. And I said, well, let me know when you get it. And I've been waiting for a long fucking time. So maybe for the 20th anniversary, we'll get the true special edition director's cut. Because to make the director's cut, it was very, very limited. I was going to put in all these extra scenes.
Yeah.
I was going to make it flow a little bit better, a little nicer. There were more stories with this guy and his dad. And, I thank God I got the footage of my mom's emotional interview that I used for The Force Within Us.
Yeah.
That came off that same drive. I should have just transferred all that shit that was on that drive. Then, hey, Oliver's tuning in. Thank you. Oliver and I did a Star Wars production in front of the movie theater, AMC movie theater. He was Darth Maul, and that's for a whole nother show at a whole different time. But Oliver is a Star Wars friend that I've reconnected with after many, many, many of years, But anyways, so the footage of my mom on The Force Within Us, that thank God that we were able to retrieve that, because I think that really tells what my story's about,
Yeah.
And we filmed that in 2006 for The Force Among Us. Never used it, but I eventually ended up saying, you know what, this is going to fit beautifully here,
Yeah, and I guess what's the decision to go down to Florida? Because I know we have some photos of some of the guys there in this collage
I think the decision to go down to Florida was definitely to interview my mom and my brother Josh, because again, like my cousins, like the rest of my friends and family, it was just this Star Wars connection that I had,
Yeah.
So this guy here,
this guy,
he brings all this crazy vintage stuff.
Yeah.
This guy is still doing what he was doing back 15 years ago. He is in a documentary called Plastic Crack.
Okay.
And I know Gus Lopez is in it. If you IMDb it, you can watch this. And it's really about the obsession with collecting. And Todd was in the Florida area. I see him at Celebration from time to time. It's always good to bump into him. And he had this vintage collection that he bought, back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have had the money, I would have done the same thing. But I had a little bit of money a couple years later, and I was buying all the Power to Force 2 shit instead of the good stuff, So yeah, he's down. I believe he's still out of Florida, but he's still active with the collectors scene for sure.
Well, I believe it. I mean, he says he knows someone. I think it's this guy who says he knows someone with a rocket firing Boba Fett. I'm not sure, but he had some pretty good pieces out there on the table.
The funny thing is we did talk about the rocket firing Boba Fett in this documentary, and we kind of, I think one guy said he had it, and one guy said there's no way he's got it. So, and again, it's, that's why we all need to look at Steven Sansweet, visit Rancho Obi-Wan, because you will get nothing but the truth from that guy. If you have any collecting questions, you got to reach out to Steve.
So then we got this guy who's the other Florida dude. And I guess another question is why shoot outside for this? Is it, I mean, this isn't, I'm not a huge Florida person. Is this a stereotypical backdrop for Florida?
Yes.
Gray skies and a palm tree.
Yeah. Gray skies because it was during the month of December.
Okay.
So it was winter time.
Yeah.
Palm tree everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm surprised there's not a palm tree inside Tropicana Field.
You'd think.
But I think with one, it's always easy to shoot outside. Your lighting conditions are you have to do minimal work when you're working outside. Like when I go shoot something for real fans of the saga, I'm like, Ian, let's shoot it outside. Okay, yeah, we can do this. Bounce a little light here. You don't have to worry about, all the, plus inside the house was not an option because this is my mom's driveway. And we didn't want to film everybody inside my mom's house.
Yeah.
We did film somebody on my mom's front steps. We did film the Lego guy in front of my mom's garage. So it was, yeah.
There you go, Andy.
Andy from Miami, yes, typical Florida backdrop. Yeah, from Miami all the way up to the northern part of Florida. So I want to thank the guys from all my Patreon members tuning in tonight. I know you guys are waiting for the name draw, but we will get to that at the end.
Yeah, this is a long one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm never going to get to all these questions. I have 40 questions, and there's no way. I've gotten through maybe 6. But
I tell you what, man, we are going to save the questions that you did not get to. We will save for a Patreon podcast episode.
Yeah, it sounds good,
for
brother.
Sure. It's always good to talk about this stuff.
Well,
John is still here.
Yeah, right on, John. We'll still finish. We'll keep going here for a bit, but especially because now we're on Cousin Glenn. Right? This is Cousin Glenn.
Now Cousin Glenn, man, this is a very, very deep cut, heavy story. We're waiting. Daniel's waiting, and we're waiting. Yes, and then patience you must have. But this would have been good for the real fans of the saga. So my cousin Glenn, who I don't have a relationship with anymore, as well. I had to film him, right? And have a part 2 with the questions. Yeah, we're going to do 2 hours tonight, and then we'll do another 2 hours later on. Be 4 hours of celebrating, and then we'll do the reunion in October.
We probably could.
So my cousin Glenn is a hoarder.
Yeah, clearly. You got the scene where he's, I don't know, was that staged where he's sleeping on the floor?
I got to tell you why it was staged. So
okay.
I go over to my cousin's house with Freddie. Freddie is Frankie's right-hand man, right? So you got Frankie and Freddie, and you got Chris and Ian. You know, it's a similar comparison. Business partners in the film business. So I go over to my cousin's house, and my aunt's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, didn't Glennie tell you we're making a documentary? You know he's got a problem. You know he's got a problem. You're going to glorify his issues." And Freddie's like, "What the fuck did I just step into?" And she goes, "Well, why? She's like, "You can't film here. You can't film here. Why do you want to take advantage of my son? You want to exploit him?" Because Glennie had his parents' basement. His parents just bought this new house. His parents' basement was just full of Star Wars shit.
Yeah.
And Glennie was not the messy hoarder, but he was the shopper hoarder. Like, you go into he rented from my grandma, he's in my unit, right?
Yeah.
He's in an empty unit, actually. My grandma had this apartment building, and when he rented from her, I would go in there and I would see just bags of Target shit. It would like think about hoarders, but opening the door and just seeing like white Target bags all over the fucking place.
Yeah, yeah. My uncle was a hoarder, man. I've seen it.
But he wasn't like, dirty dishes in the sink, cockroaches running around kind of hoarder. It was just like, let's just shop and buy everything we can and just throw it in the fucking living area.
Yeah.
So Freddie was like, "What's going on here?" And I'm like, "Look, I want to film Glennie." And my aunt's like, "Well, why didn't you film you and your stuff? You got a lot of shit." And I'm like, "Well, the movie isn't about me only. I got to have my cousin in this thing." So what we did was we took an empty unit, and all the shit around my cousin, it's all my stuff.
Really?
All my stuff. We staged this because this would have been his stuff, but we couldn't get to his stuff, and we couldn't film at his mom's house. And Glenn was not the most reliable person. So I'm like, "Look, I'm going to stage this in my grandma's apartment," which, oddly enough, he ended up moving into. He wasn't living there at the time. And, we put the stuff upstairs, we put the stuff downstairs, ran this big light up, through the top.
Oh, yeah, there it is, right there.
Upstairs on the second shelf. Yeah, this is all my shit, man. You know me, man. I got so much Star Wars shit.
I'm sure I've bought some of this.
Yeah, you bought some of that in there. Yes, you have screen used Force Among Us collectibles. So that's really the really deep, heavy meat and potatoes on Glenn's part, which I didn't talk about because when I had a relationship with him, I didn't want to talk about that,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's
but
personal
now
stuff.
everything's fair game,
Now that I don't talk to him, I can do whatever I want.
Now that I don't talk to him, I got to tell you what really happened. What really happened.
But I mean, does he still collect? Is he still a Star Wars fan? He said,
what? I don't know because I don't talk to him.
That's all right. That's all right.
I would think he is still a Star Wars fan, but I mean, Glenn was very active in the Rebel Scum forums.
Yeah.
He was very active on yakface.com, and he had a lot to do with the behind the scenes on this, kind of steering me in the right direction as far as collectibles go.
I'm sure he did. He had everything, man.
Yeah, he had a lot. I mean, he was definitely into collecting more than I was.
Yeah.
I was more about the vintage stuff, even though I got suckered into buying all this shit when it hit the shelves in 95, when I should have been buying the vintage stuff because it was cheap back then.
Hey, the 95 stuff is vintage to me, man.
Yeah, it's vintage, but it's like, it's not, to me, it's not true vintage. And to me, you can still get that shit for cheap.
You can get it for pretty cheap. I mean, it's still, I think it holds its value.
Yeah, you can always make your money back. That's the thing about Star Wars. You never lose money. You never lose money.
I don't think you ever will, unless you buy a bunch of Rose Ticos or, a bunch of Jar Jars.
I still think you'll make your money back. Now, I know everybody's been wanting to talk about her.
So, yeah, this is the first question I shot you in a text message. I was like, who is this? Is this your ex-wife?
That is my ex-wife. My ex-wife was not that attractive, actually.
I the backdrop with the fire. It
Yes,
was
yes. So
obviously a scene that was.
it was
I don't know how to explain
it
this.
was made to look sexy.
Yes.
Again, going back to those stereotypes.
Yeah.
And my sister kind of chimed in a little bit on it. She's like, either they were super nerdy or they were like borderline, that's a sexy shot.
You got a girl in front of the fire on a carpet.
Yeah,
I mean,
and her hands in front of her blouse, but she's got the blouse, the top unbuttoned. So this is in Dustin Roberts' living room. And Dustin goes, "Hey, this chick from Ohio, she's really hot. She wants to come out. She's a Star Wars fan. She had a Star Wars license plate, if my memory serves me well. Now her name is Ia, I believe. I'm still friends with her on Facebook, and she has been involved in the independent film world
really,
since this. And
that's
she came out to the red
surprising.
carpet event. But the thing that Frankie told me to do here, he's like, look, light the fireplace, get her down, and make it look sexy, because this is going to show that sexy people like Star Wars too.
Yeah. Frank's not wrong there. Frank's not wrong.
No.
But he is falling into that stereotype your sister talked about, I think. But
yeah. Well, one extreme to the other, sure. But I remember we got the light coming in from the right. It's lighting her, and she had these, like, I call them sticky outies, right? Like, if you ever look at females' hair or guys with long hair, they got these like flyaways, right?
Oh yeah, just little like things that.
Just like,
I mean, you and I don't have that.
Goes like this, not noticeable, but when you're shooting somebody on film, you're looking for all that stuff. And I remember I kept going by her, and I kept, like, touching her hair and making sure that her hair was down properly, and yeah. So yes, that's the HBO After Hours shot. Yes, not the Cinemax After Hours shot, but the HBO After Hours shot.
I mean, I don't think it could have gone wrong. She's obviously a beautiful person, but she also says she's an engineer in here, which is why it's so.
Yes.
It's sort of surprising to me that she's gone down this acting career.
Yeah, now I don't know if she does the acting full time, because on her Facebook page, she still says that she's a rocket scientist. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if she's doing that on the side for fun. I don't know. It would be fun to kind of have a cast reunion as well, because I think a lot of these people I'm still in touch with. It'd be kind of fun to have them on the show for maybe not a 2-hour marathon, but maybe a 1-hour show,
Yeah.
Have some people drop in, and it's kind of, where are they now?
Catch up with people.
It's been in the back of my mind, like, if I don't get the footage from Frank and I want to do a cut for the 20-year anniversary, do I reshoot it? I don't know. It's like,
you're gonna shoot reshots, like
do I reshoot and retell the story and kind of like do almost like a, I don't know. It's, my mind is always, man. It's always,
there's a bunch of CGI guys on Reddit that you can hire. Just make them look young.
Mine's always spitting out ideas. Half of them I use, half of them I don't use. There's only so much time in the day, right?
Yeah, and so it's pretty. I'm not trying to insult that woman at all, but it's pretty obvious she's reading cue cards in that scene.
No, she was not reading cue cards.
What the hell?
No, you said that to me. You said that no, she was not reading cue cards.
Go back, watch her eyeballs, because her eyeballs are going left to right. So that's why I was like, is she reading? Is she the only one who read cue cards? Because it looks like she's reading cue cards. But
no, I am. You know what? I don't remember her reading cue cards. No, because
that's wild.
Yeah, unless she was just like looking at the film crew, like kind of not. Because I remember she was a little nervous.
Yeah.
I think you get that too. A lot of people, you have them in a documentary. They don't have any acting skills. It's not a movie that you act in because it's a doc, right?
Yeah.
And people, like, when the camera's on them, man, sometimes they get a little too nervous,
Oh yeah.
So
100%.
I mean, it could have been nerves. I would say she didn't read a cue card. No.
I'm a little nervous right now.
Still?
No, I'm just messing with you.
I'm always nervous when I come onto the live show, but like as soon as we get rolling into it, it's
Yeah,
okay.
then it's just a flow, baby.
But I don't know if it's I don't know if it's being nervous. Yeah, this guy was, in front of my mom's garage.
So this guy I sort of love because he introduced me to the term adult fan of Lego, I believe.
Yes.
AFOL is how they call themselves.
Yes.
And he tells a story about how he's built this AT-AT over like 80 years or something. Not 80 years, fucking like 20
a long
years.
time. Yeah, a long time. And it falls apart, right?
Yeah, it falls apart every once in a while. But now it's like you can go get an AT-AT for like $150. Like you don't need to build one yourself. So
right. Sure.
So like I guess so this is one of the guys you vetted, yeah?
Yeah, this guy again, cast and call, forced that net, rebel scum, showed up at my mom's house. And I think the appeal to him, right, is he's got Legos in front of him. And
Yeah.
I think that alone adds to the talking heads because
Mhm.
he's got some visuals in front of him,
Yeah, and he's theatrical about it. He starts talking about how some guys have their whole garages filled with Lego and it's just the same Lego, like 10 boxes of them. And then he gets really depressed and he lowers his head down.
Yes.
And and you have sort of this somber music.
Now, Andy can relate to this. Now, Andy, you're probably looking at this guy. His name is Simon. I ran into him at Celebration Orlando. He's down in Florida. I ran into him at Celebration Orlando in like 2010. And he's wearing a fucking sweater.
In Florida. Yeah.
In Florida. And if you realize, when you watch the scene, my sister always referred to him as the sweaty pit guy.
Because he goes like that. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
That's not how you dress in Florida, man. Not even in the wintertime.
I thought he looked classy. I don't know. I wasn't going to judge him. But he introduced me to AFOL.
I'm not judging him. I'm just saying that, man, that's not how you dress in Florida,
But he does. I mean, it is cool. He designed his own AT-AT. I just thought it was a really fun scene.
That's how you dress in Florida, right there.
Yeah. So who are these guys?
Okay, so Frank's in the middle, and then Freddie's on the left.
Yeah. Okay.
Freddie's on the left, and those guys truly made. Without them, none of this would have happened.
And what did Freddie do again?
Freddie, Freddie just did everything from audio to lighting to editing, to some camera work. I mean, there he is holding the boom mic again. All my brother's friends, they're in the street. We're like, hey, let's. And this reminded me of like growing up in the 70s, like all the kids playing outside, and it was fun to have them. And then there's that interview with my mom.
In baseball,
for both movies.
In baseball, you'd call Freddie a utility man. So yeah, I mean,
man, yes. In baseball, you call me utility man. Yes.
I already asked you, why go down to Florida to film your mom? I know your relationship with her isn't, 100% matched.
It's probably running at like 1%.
I feel you there, brother. But it goes back to just, it's someone who was there when you were growing up. And you talk about Star Wars in this and how a lot of people talk about Star Wars in this doc, and they talk about going back to their families or like growing up in childhood and how that's this sort of shell from the outside world. Did you experience that at all when you were filming? I know you filmed this afterwards. You filmed this for Force Within Us, I think. But I don't know. What emotions were you feeling when you were like, I'm going to go down to Florida, I'm going to film my mom for the Star Wars documentary, and I'm going to ask her some questions that might pertain to me or Courtney growing up with Star Wars? Like,
well, I tell you, out of everything that I ever shot, even the memorial for Bo in the backyard for the real fans of the saga finale that we just shot, 3 weeks ago.
mm-hmm.
The most emotional scene filming anybody was when I sat down with my mom.
Yeah.
And I asked her, so why do you think I like Star Wars so much? I'm like, my mom's got to have her own answer to it, right?
Mhm.
And then she said it, and she broke down. And we shot this for The Force Among Us. We had no making a sequel at this time was not
Oh,
even on
yeah,
our,
yeah. I'm sorry.
no
I
worries.
did misspeak there, but
It wasn't even on our radar. I think the first time I had a idea that I was going to do a part 2 was when I was on the glacier in Norway, right? Because we're going to wrap, and I'm like, I got to think about what's coming after this. And I told Frankie, I said, "Hey, Frankie, film everything out here because I'm going to want to make another movie eventually, and I'm going to want to use a lot of shit from Norway in it." You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So when I sat my mom down and I talked to her about my, well, why do you think I'm a Star Wars fan so much? I knew her answer, but I didn't think about it that deeply until I heard it from my mom.
Mhm.
And my mom broke down, and then I started breaking down, and it was like, okay, Frankie's like, okay, cut. And Frankie and Freddie, they stepped off the set,
Yeah.
and they let me and my mom have a moment. And my mom's like, okay, I got to do my makeup again. Let's go shoot the interview. Because it's in the middle of the interview, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty heavy. It was like, again, it was the heaviest thing I ever filmed. Yeah, making a Force Within Us. There were no, even though that was about my journey with my dad, it
Mhm.
wasn't an emotional. It wasn't not emotional for me to film that. But filming my mom and leaving Norway, it was like shit. You know, shit hit the fan at those times. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Force Within Us, it's kind of like you got tipped off on the pitch. You knew what was
Yes, right.
coming.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
A lot of baseball analogies tonight. I'm sorry.
No,
Um,
you know what? When I was at my counselor's office last week, I said, "Dude, I love the baseball analogies because that's the way I think, and that's what I love about the game."
Yep.
I said, "Keep them coming, man."
But yeah, I mean, I just love learning, man. Oh, this is a good one. We're getting into the meat and potatoes.
Yes. Okay.
So
Time to throw people under the bus.
I'm not gonna lead any questions here.
Okay,
but,
so
you did ask me to ask you, was there anyone that was not fun to interview? Basically, that's what.
yeah. Yeah. I asked you to ask me. See, I told John Drake's like, yeah, mask or no mask, vaccine or no vaccine. That was your idea. No,
I mean,
okay,
I was going to
so-
ask about this regardless, but
Well, I think, okay, so here's the thing. So Arnie from Star Wars Action News reached out to me before Jimmy did. And he was a podcaster, and I'm like, what the fuck is a podcast? I didn't even know. This is in December of 06. Podcasting was very, very new. Okay, this guy's down in Springfield. I'll go down there. Sure. Anybody that reached out to me and said, hey, I want to be in the movie, I'm like, okay. Except Jimmy reached out to me. Hey, I want to be in the movie. And I'm like, hey, we're done rap. We wrapped. But that was Frank, because Frank was the guy that was in charge of, if he couldn't shoot, we weren't shooting. And I'm like, and at the time I wasn't friends with, like, if me and Jimmy were friends like we are now, I'd be like, Frank, we got to fucking film this guy.
yeah, immediately.
You know, he's a good friend of mine. We got to put him in. So anyways, I put Swan in there. We shot a bunch of stuff at their house. Everybody down there was a little off. Again, Springfield, Illinois, that was an overnight trip. That was another spot that we filmed, but not a super far place to travel.
It's about 3 hours south of Chicago, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough because, me and my sister always like to go out for dinner and have some drinks. And we're like, I don't want to fucking shoot all day, drink, and then go home. But Frankie drove home, because he's like, you guys do your thing. We're going to do our thing. So anyways, these guys were not very nice to us while we were shooting. They were not very nice to us while we were promoting. And when it came time to do the director's cut, I'm like, I'm yanking these fuckers out of here, and I'm putting in Jimmy Mack, because this was an idea that was not fulfilled, but it was an idea from quite some time ago, So I kind of fulfilled, the prophecy of having Jimmy in the doc and kind of paying justice to these fuckers that were not very nice to us. And you know, you guys got to listen to the podcast. I think there's a whole Mocktails podcast on these guys.
Yeah. Sign up for Patreon. You'll get the full story, but
$2, get the full story.
But I'm just curious about when you shot Jimmy's scene, because you said because
so
in the
Jimmy's
director's
scene-
cut.
Yeah, Jimmy's scene we shot at the radio station he was working at while we were filming it for The Force Within Us.
Okay.
So if you look at his footage,
He's got the flannel. He's got the same flannel.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same shot. You know, it's the same shot. It's just different dialogue. And I was happy. I was happy with that. And I think Jimmy delivered a lot better dialogue than these guys were. These guys came off very, very stiff, very arrogant.
Yeah.
I will say though, the lighting on this guy, the blue light, I really, really like. And the funny thing, we had this vision to have like this on the air kind of light.
Mhm.
And they did not have that there at their house when they were podcasting. But when we shot Jimmy in The Force Within Us, he was working at the radio station. He had that light. And I'm like, hey, I wanted to use this in The Force Among Us. Now we can use it in The Force Within Us. So again, it's kind of fun to like, you have an opportunity at a certain time and you don't have it at other times. It'll present itself when the time is right, and you kind of use it when you can, if that makes any sense, you know?
No, absolutely.
But another person that was not nice to me was the website people for this 501st film. There's a lot of drama behind that one. Elvin Johnson I believe he got screwed out of this documentary. But the guys that made the website for Heart of an Empire,
Mm-hmm.
I called that guy, and the guy was a total prick. I just wanted some website advice. Just a total dick, and it's like, where's he now? You know, where the fuck is that guy now? You know, you have to be. I told my 7-year-old daughter, be kind and be nice to people. It does not pay to be a prick to anybody.
No, it's the golden rule, right?
It's the golden rule.
That's how you want to be treated.
Any profession, any age, you know.
Yeah, and I just gotta say, I love the comparison of the dialogue between Star Wars Action News and Jimmy, because just if you can get your hands on the theatrical cut somewhere, watch that scene and then watch Jimmy's scene, because Jimmy talks about conversing with a blind guy, a blind Star Wars fan, and how he connects to Star Wars. And Jimmy is all about the fans. RFR is always all about the fans. Just go and watch what happens with Star Wars Action News, because their dialogue here is a bit different. So
worlds apart. Now I know we're wrapping up the show at the 2-hour mark. We're getting close, but I for those of you that want to know how to get the theatrical cut, because the DVD's been sold out for a long time, you can buy a download from me directly. Just email me on Facebook, PM me on Facebook, and I'll hook you up. That way. But again, this is Dustin Roberts at the house. All these people that were there, you kind of, this cutaway shot exposes that all those people were friends with him, and we all interviewed at the same location.
So I gotta stop it here. So this guy, Captain Jack Sparrow, band member of the 501st, he sort of bashes Steve Sansweet a little bit in the documentary.
Yes.
Do you regret putting that in there, or do you have any other regrets about the movie?
No, no, I don't regret putting that in there because it showed what happens when you cross the line.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy crossed the line. This is outside the studio where we shot Dick Staub, and it was the year of the locusts, and the noise was so bad. Captain Jack Sparrow is late to the shoot. His car breaks down. We shoot him in the fucking alleyway. And Frank with the imagery, he's like, hey, this guy, he's an expelled 501st member. We got to put the garbage can behind him, right?
He's a piece of trash.
Taking out the trash. Like, Frank was always thinking, like, how can we use our surroundings to tell the story?
Yeah.
And the locust. Thank God, Mike McGrath is a great sound guy. The locusts, they're not heard in the dialogue, but the thing with what he said, I don't regret that at all because it shows what happens when you cross the line. Now, my good friend from Amsterdam that I went to Norway with, I think Steve saw this and was like, that's not fucking cool.
Yeah,
But
right
then
on. I
Steve
would think the same.
I don't believe that Steve necessarily held that over my head because he was in the force within us.
A lot.
He was on Mocktails from the Cantina on the last episode. We never talked about this, but it wasn't a direct slam towards him.
No.
It was like, hey, this guy's expelled. How do you get expelled from the 501st? Hey, it was all Steven Sansweet. And I'm like, I didn't see a point to cut that because that was that guy's story, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that this guy's sort of just a nut job.
So I put this in here because he's on the back cover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the fuck did I put Captain Jack Sparrow on the cover, on the back cover? I don't know. Okay, Staub makes sense. John Tenuto makes sense. Alfie makes sense. You know, but why not Dan? You know,
Dan Madsen?
Dan Madsen and John Duffy replace Alfie and Captain Jack Sparrow on the director's cut. And the girl in front of the fireplace replaced Dick Staub.
Yeah, and we'll see that right here.
There
yeah,
it is. Look at that.
Go.
It's a completely different back. And this is from Josh Stolte, who's a friend in the Star Wars circle, and he did this back cover.
Yeah, I've seen Josh Stolte's stuff around a bit.
I like Josh's art because he's got like a cartoon kind of feel, you know.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming to the end of the show.
Yep.
Again, guys, leave a review if you're looking for the original cut. Hit me up on Facebook. Please join Patreon. Please, it's $2 You can't be that cheap. I'm just calling it like it is right now. These are some beautiful shots from Norway. And I am going to do the name draw. Right there's Courtney with a roommate. Now, the funny thing is, too, I'm at Celebration for promoting the film. And Frank's on the phone with me on a payphone, on a fucking pay. No, man, I don't know if it was a payphone. We had cell phones at the time. It's not that old. Frank's like, I got the director's cut. Oh, no, I got the final cut, but Norway's not in it. I'm like, Frank, get your fucking ass back in the editing suite. Put Norway in there. Make this shit happen. You know? So, all right. The winner is James Johnson.
James Johnson. You in the chat.
James, you got to show yourself in the chat. James is my latest Patreon member. But remember, man, you got to be present to win. You got to be present to win. And, yeah, you know what? As much as I still got the postcard promo.
Nice.
Celebration 5. Yeah, we did a lot of cool postcards and stickers and all kinds of shit. I know Chip said do a part 2. I think I'm going to save some of this stuff that we didn't cover for Mocktails podcast for sure. Next winner, John Drake.
John Drake.
He's still with us.
Is he still here?
John, you were here not too long ago. Was this Andy says, Dan, that was a preview of what Chris may look like in a few months with hair if the Rays lose.
We do have the bet.
Tyler, you're going to look like me.
I hope not. Well, to be honest, I have a wedding in December. And Jim Bove, if you're still watching this, man, I know you chimed in earlier.
Oh, John, hey, you won.
There you go, buddy.
John, you're still here. Johnny won tonight. Check out Nerf Herder Council. John was just on the show a couple weeks ago. And, yeah, so Tyler, I don't know, man. If the Rays eliminate, my wife isn't happy about me growing my hair out till opening day, I tell you.
Yeah, I was surprised when because we were sitting in the hotel room, and it was like out of nowhere. We had just gotten back from the bar, and you were like, hey, Tyler, if the Rays beat the Sox in the ALCS, you got to shave your beard. And I was like, what? But I'll probably end up shaving my beard somewhat, at least. Regardless, I mean, the Sox are going to win the series this year. That's not disputed. It's going to happen. But so your hair will grow, and I will shave my beard at some point to look nice for Jim Bove's wedding. I'm sure he's not watching still, but I'll tell him to catch up later.
If you there's John's.
Hey, there you go, John. I'm still wearing the Rays hat.
A Florida, you know what? I will do a Florida style mold. Yeah, my wife will love that. I'll do a Kentucky waterfall, Florida style. Yeah, Tyler, you got the Rays hat on tonight.
John,
but anyways, guys,
thank you for Cesar Hernandez, John.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Mocktails from the Cantina Live. Remember, don't forget to join me on Patreon, and stay tuned for another live show in a couple weeks where me and Tyler will sit down and talk about the force within us. Take a deep dive into that. Cheers, guys. Be safe. Be well. Remember, there's always tomorrow if you're having a shitty day. So long, everybody. Chut, chut, and choo-choo.